It hasn't worked. And when you put stimulus money into the economy and you provide for people to ensure that they can make ends meet, that's trickle-up economics. And that money is spent in our communities, and it helps our economy grow. It helps small businesses.
Very, very quick and brief comment from the Honourable Member for Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Well, I think that's just factually incorrect. If we look at Venezuela's Soviet Union, Cuba, you can see what that creates. Those type of socialist policies create scarcity and poverty. I'm for abundance and freedom and for the Canadian.
Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. April 22nd, 1970. I was in high school and organized for the first Earth Day. And for 50 years, every April 22nd, I've said, Happy Earth Day. I have to say this year, the words stick in my throat somewhat. The Earth, if I say Happy Earth Day, the Earth battered and abused and gasping for breath, what does the Earth say? Brilliant Indigenous writer Robin Wall Kimmerer in Braiding Sweetgrass wrote that we in our society suffer from species loneliness and estrangement from the rest of creation. But she gives me hope. She wrote this, quote, even a wounded world is feeding us. Even a wounded world holds us, giving us moments of wonder and joy. I choose joy over despair, not because I have my head in the sand, but because joy is what the earth gives me daily, and I must return the gift, close quote. And with that, Madam Speaker, let us all say, Happy Earth Day.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, Canadians across our beautiful country will be celebrating Earth Day, a nationwide movement to address climate change, engage in environmental conservation, and initiate a green recovery. Our government believes that climate change is real. That is why in this budget, we will invest $1 billion in clean technology sector. This will fuel the growth of innovative companies in my riding like Green Brain Inc. and LumaSmart that they're committed to bettering our planet and preserving our resources. Madam Speaker, I'm proud to represent the beautiful riding of Richmond Hill, which has been recognized for planting nearly 10,000 trees in 2020. I would like to also recognize members of my Environmental Community Council who are passionate environmentalists and have advocated for green initiatives. I'm proud to be part of a government that will act on climate change. We must all do our part to preserve our magnificent planet Earth. Happy Earth Day, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Steveston, Richmond East.
Madam Speaker, on Monday, 287 million kilometers away, we witnessed history as NASA's Ingenuity helicopter made its first flight on Mars. On that same day, right here in the chamber, Canada received a historical, ideologically partisan budget. The Ingenuity helicopter spent 39 seconds airborne. In that same 39 seconds, Canada's national debt increased by over $400,000. The Perseverance and Ingenuity project, it's estimated to cost $2.7 billion over its life cycle for this massive step forward in scientific research and exploration. Budget 2021 adds to over $500 billion in deficit spending since 2016, a massive step backward for Canada's economy. Water disappeared from Mars 3.8 billion years ago. I pray we don't have to wait that long for future generations to pay it down. I believe we must act responsibly.
Honourable Member for Guelph.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, sorry, Madam Speaker, my document just disappeared on me.
We'll go back to the Honourable Member. L'Honourable Député de Berthier.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Madam Speaker, today is Earth Day, and I'd like to recognize those who care for the earth, who sow and harvest on the earth, and those who live off of it. Farmers have a fundamental role to play in protecting the land in our rural areas, and also in protecting their ecological future. There is real green potential in our land, and the federal government must contribute to it. We must support food sovereignty in Quebec. This has been shown to be important through shortages during the pandemic, but it's also an ecological choice to have local agriculture. We must take advantage of Quebec's clean energy sources to encourage alternatives to propane and gas. Ottawa must invest massively in research on alternatives to neonicotinoid pesticides. And we need to promote labeling so that Quebecers know exactly what they're putting on their plates and so that they can buy locally. On this Earth Day, let's salute our farmers and let's work all together to support green agriculture. The Honourable Member for Guelph.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. All of Canadians living in long-term care facilities deserve to live in safe, modern spaces. Unfortunately, the pandemic has shown that all too often this is just not the case. In the city of Guelph alone, 10 residents of long-term care homes have passed away from complications related to COVID-19. As we mourn their loss, we must also work to ensure that this type of preventative tragedy is never allowed to happen again. That's why I'm proud to announce that on Friday, the federal government is contributing 80% of $1.8 million investment in partnership with the provincial government to upgrade HVAC systems and improve the air quality in long-term care homes in Guelph so that they're safer for both residents and healthcare workers. This represents just one small step forward in fixing the crisis in our long-term care system. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for l'Honorable Député de...
The Honourable Member for Sherbrooke. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The arts and culture community was one of the first to close its doors, and it will be slow to return to full capacity. Sherbrooke, with its dynamic performance venues such as the Granada Theatre and the Cultural Centre, and its diverse and colourful festivals such as the Lake of Nations Festival and the Festival of World Traditions, and with its many artists and technicians, is obviously not immune from this. In tabling Budget 2021 last Monday, my colleague, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, announced nearly $800 million of funding that will be dedicated to reviving festivals, performance venues, music, and more. This is key funding that will encourage our local artists, musicians, and cultural producers. Being in constant communication with the arts and culture representatives of my riding, I can tell you that Sherbrooke will be there as the culture scene comes back to life across Quebec and Canada. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
Speaker, do you ever have a moment when you say to yourself, I can't believe I'm here, in this place, sitting in this chair, presiding over the House of Commons in the Government of Canada? When I first took my seat as the Member of Parliament for Yorkton Melville, there was rarely a day that went by that I didn't marvel at the sight of the centre block as I was quickly walking up that hill to make it in time for House duty or question period. I shared my rookie amazement with a dear colleague who said, never lose that sense of awe. Today, I want to say thank you to what I don't doubt is the best team of staffers on the Hill and in my constituency office. They are also part of my sense of awe and deep appreciation. This year's been challenging. They've missed loved ones, faced illness, worked from home, been a shoulder of reassurance and hope in the midst of very trying times for constituents who've been isolated, unemployed, working 24/7 to try to save a business that they've poured their hearts into. They've continually gone above and beyond. I want to thank Kristen, Kathleen, Gail, David, Tristan, and Wisdom.
The Honourable Member for London West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I would like to take the time to recognize Londoner Maggie McNeil. This summer, Maggie will be representing Canada in her first Olympics in Tokyo as a member of Swimming Canada's team. I spoke to Maggie last spring after the pandemic hit, when many athletic training centers had to close, but she wouldn't let that keep her from training. Her parents set her up in the backyard pool, where she spent months honing her skills. Maggie, a London Aquatics Club grad, won gold in 2019 at the FINA World Aquatics Championships in the 100-meter butterfly. In that race, she not only beat the reigning 4-time world champion, but set a new Commonwealth, America's, and Canadian records. Wow. At only 19 years of age, Maggie's skill, hard work, and determination shows she has a bright future ahead. Please join me in wishing Maggie and her teammates all the best as they head to Tokyo for Team Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg South.
Mr. Speaker, today I want to recognize the incredible healthcare workers at Victoria General Hospital in my community of Winnipeg South. Last month, I had the pleasure of welcoming the Prime Minister to meet virtually with 8 nurses from the Vic. They shared the harrowing experiences of being at the forefront of the pandemic, working long, tiring days, sometimes holding the hands of elderly patients during their last moments and grieving the loss of so many they cared for. I hope that we as a community and as a country will never forget the endless sacrifices that our healthcare workers have made for us. To the wonderful nurses we met, Doris Dong, Tina Friesen, Doris Paquette, Emily McLeod, Katie Bryant, Malika Pillman, Cassandra Sapansky, and John Patrick Hernandez, your character, strength, and bravery exemplify the VIC's model of a small hospital with a clear vision and a big heart. Our community is so grateful for your heroic actions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is in the middle of a third wave of COVID. It didn't have to be this way but for the catastrophic failure of leadership on the part of this government. From the outset of this pandemic, this government failed to close the border until it was too late, failed to secure PPE, and failed to secure vaccines. In December, the Prime Minister had the audacity to say, quote, "We ended up in such a great situation with vaccines," closed quote. If that had been true, we could have avoided a third wave, as other countries have. Instead, a mere 2% of Canadians have been fully vaccinated, compared to nearly 30% in the US and nearly 20% in the UK. After more than a year, it seems that this government's only plan is to keep Canadians locked down and to bribe them with their own money. Canadians deserve so much better.
The Honourable Member for Milton.
Merci, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week, Budget 2021 was tabled. I was very pleased to see all of the money invested in Canada's recovery. However, the closures of event venues and facilities have really hindered sports and recreation. The goal of sports is to promote inclusiveness and equity. The sporting community remained positive through the pandemic. We now have an opportunity to get back to sport and to overcome obstacles to physical activity by boosting participation and enhancing sports programs. So, when it's safe to do so, let's all play an active role in Canada's return to sport. Thank you.
L'honorable député de Bellechasse.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse des Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, while the pandemic is wreaking havoc on our social lives, the Liberals have no plan. Well, in fact, they do have a plan, and it's to load up our credit card and leave future generations in debt. We, the Conservatives, have a responsible plan to create sustainable prosperity by recovering the 1 million jobs lost, put an end to cronyism while Liberals grease their palms at taxpayer expense, finally work with the provinces on mental health to get a real action plan, protect people's health by creating a strategic stockpile of essential products and building our capacity to manufacture vaccines here at home, and finally, look after future generations with responsible action by balancing the budget over the next decade. Mr. Speaker, let's say no to Liberal excess and yes to a responsible Conservative plan that will leave no Canadian behind, either now or in the future.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, today we are celebrating Earth Day. All Conservatives know how important the health of our planet is. The leader of our Conservative Party recently announced our plan to secure the environment. This comprehensive plan will achieve about the same emissions reductions by 2030 as the government's current plan. However, our plan will create jobs and grow the economy as compared to the Liberal plan, which will destroy entire industries. Our plan will lower industrial emissions, backed up by border carbon adjustments to level the playing field with countries that have lower emission standards, like China. Our plan will focus on technology like carbon capture and storage, a technology where we in Saskatchewan lead the world. We will also encourage small modular reactors to deploy zero emissions electricity across the country. Our plan will also recognize and build on the world-leading sustainable practices of Canada's agriculture and forestry sectors and ensure producers have access to carbon credits. This is a conservative plan to secure our environment, secure jobs, and secure our future.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
Since the Liberals have been elected, Canada's greenhouse gas emissions increased by 1%, and we're the only G7 nation that failed to meet the Paris target. On the first day of Biden's presidency, his first act was to cancel the Keystone XL pipeline. In Canada, the Prime Minister went and bought a pipeline. Today, on Earth Day, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and 100 other Nobel laureates are calling for an end to new expansion of oil, a phase-out of existing production, and they want leaders across the globe to invest in a transformational plan to clean energy. Canada needs to play its part. We need the total economic mobilization to bring about a Green New Deal, just recovery to make Canada greener, more sustainable, more resilient, and ultimately more just. We need a Just Transition Act. We need a Jobs Guarantee. We need a Climate Accountability Act. The government must uphold Indigenous rights. If we don't take action now, every generation who comes after us will pay the ultimate price.
The Honourable Member for Montcalm. Mr. Speaker, on Earth Day, we must remember that not only is climate change real, it's already having a major impact on our health. These consequences are not abstract, they're immediate, and they affect our loved ones. Climate change is ever-increasing heat waves, which again this summer could have serious consequences for the elderly in our care centres. It's the disruption of species migrations that have consequences such as the appearance of Lyme disease in Quebec. It's the intensification of air pollution that has a major impact on respiratory diseases such as asthma. It's the increase in the frequency of epidemics. I think everyone understands the consequences of that one. So on this Earth Day, let's make sure that we fight climate change every day, just as we see its impact on the health of the people around us every day.
The Honourable Member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, for Earth Day, I want to tell a story about a Prime Minister who went to every province and worked with them to develop bold climate targets that worked for everyone. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, I'm not referring to this Prime Minister, but the former one.
On this Earth Day, the current Prime Minister has announced targets without working with province and instead dictating to them by fiat. That is not leadership. That will not get us to where we need to be. Our bold plan to secure the environment will reach our national commitments by working with provinces, all the while ensuring better economic growth. The spirit of Earth Day is coming together to protect those things we all care about, our soil, air, water, and everything that depends on them. Sadly, this Prime Minister has forgotten about the spirit of coming together when it comes to the provinces. So happy Earth Day to everyone, and we on our side look forward to securing our environment together.
The Honourable Member for Don Valley North.
Thank you very much, Speaker. As we celebrate Earth Day today, I want to bring attention to the Bayview Village Association in my riding of Don Valley North and the work they do to help the beautiful ravines in our neighborhood. When I think of environmental protection, we often think of more rural areas and the vast scenic woodlands and lakes that Canada is famous for. But Don Valley North, located in the heart of Toronto, is also home to scenic ravines, trails, and creeks, outdoor spaces made even more precious because of COVID-19. I want to thank Bayview Village Association President Jane Robinson, Environment Committee Chair Sharon Johnson, Monty McDonald, and all BVA members and volunteers for their tireless work in protecting the ravines and trails in Don Valley North. And through you to all my honorable colleagues, happy Earth Day.
Oral questions. Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this government was first asked about travel restrictions for COVID-19 in January of last year. It's 15 months later, and the Liberals still haven't learned anything. In the last 2 weeks, more than 100 flights have landed in Canada with at least one positive COVID-19 case on board. When are Canadians going to get a serious plan to secure the border?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, this government has added measures to protect Canadians from the importation of COVID-19. In fact, infections resulting from international travel represent just over 1% of total infections in this country. And, Mr. Speaker, those infections are caught because we have a rigorous process. Travelers must submit to a pre-departure test, a post-arrival test, a stay in a government quarantine facility, a further quarantine up to 14 days, and a test on day 10. Mr. Speaker, we'll stop at nothing. We constantly review the data, and we will add more measures if necessary.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, they'll stop at nothing except closing the border to keep out dangerous variants. In fact, travel restrictions are an example of a plan that works. The Atlantic Canada bubble is an example of that. British Columbia and Quebec now have both registered cases of the double mutation variant from India. Is the Prime Minister going to immediately stop flights from COVID hotspot countries? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to first of all start by thanking and commending Atlantic Canada and the premiers of those provinces for taking bold action on COVID-19, including, Mr. Speaker, keeping measures in place until cases are so low as to be sure that they will not rebound, making sure that they have strong measures to isolate people, to protect people while they're isolating, to ensure those people are in fact staying home and not spreading COVID in communities. And Mr. Speaker, that's the work that we need to do together across this country. Mr. Speaker, I'll reiterate, we have some of the strongest measures in the world. We'll stop at nothing to protect Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Health Minister thanking the Atlantic Premiers for the leadership that her Prime Minister fails to take at the border. It's ironic, but it shouldn't be a surprise from this Health Minister who ignored travel restrictions on the first wave of the pandemic, and Canadians paid the price. Now we find out the most dangerous variants are coming in. We're not properly vaccinated because of her failures, and they're not taking restrictions now. Mr. Speaker, when will that minister stop failing Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think what Canadians want right now, more than anything else, is for their elected leaders to work together to protect their lives. And that's exactly what we've done, Mr. Speaker, every step of the way with provinces and territories, no matter where a Canadian lives. In regards to borders, Mr. Speaker, we have some of the strongest measures in the world. As I mentioned, travelers go through a rigorous process of testing and quarantine. We'll stop at nothing. We continue to monitor data, and we will add additional measures if necessary.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, our southern neighbours are starting to open back up. Stadiums are filling up with people, and people are gathering with family and friends. That is possible because the U.S. has been producing their vaccines domestically. Canada's in a crisis because this Prime Minister is not ready. He doesn't have a plan to produce vaccines domestically. Will the minister admit that the third wave of COVID-19 is because of him? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the opposition leader for that question. Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the facts. On March of last year, the WHO declared a pandemic. In the 12 days following that, Canada invested over $200 million in domestic fabrication, domestic manufacturing, and $600 million in biomanufacturing to ensure the safety and security of Canadians. Mr. Speaker, our investments have borne fruit. Look at Accelerate. Look at what we've done in Quebec. We will continue to invest for the safety and security of Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. They've ignored the border, Mr. Speaker. Variants are now increasingly worrisome day after day. The government should stop flights from Brazil and India and from other hotspots. The Prime Minister's slow response is a risk to the safety and security of Canadians. When is the Prime Minister going to stop flights from hot zones? The Honourable Minister.
The leader of the opposition should pick a lane. 1 week, they're arguing for opening up the borders. This week, they're arguing for tighter restrictions at the borders. I'll tell you what we'll do, Mr. Speaker. We'll continue to use science to guide us and to protect Canadians. Every step of the way, Mr. Speaker, we've added measures to protect Canadians. We have some of the most rigorous measures in the world, Mr. Speaker, a rigorous combination of testing and quarantine, including checks on people in quarantine. We'll continue to do that, and we won't hesitate to do more if necessary.
The honourable member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, it's very worrisome what's happening at the border with variants from India and Brazil. Every day, planes from India are full of positive cases. This morning, the Quebec Premier announced he was drafting a letter calling Ottawa to do something about it. What's taking them so long? Once again, the federal government is waiting for someone else to tell them what to do. They can't do their own job. We need a ban on flights from India today, not a plan, not an announcement, a ban today. What are they waiting for? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. Since the beginning, we have added measures at our border to protect Canadians, to protect them from the importation of COVID-19. And we've been successful, Mr. Speaker. Of all of the incoming travelers from February 21st, 1.8% have been positive with COVID. And those, Mr. Speaker, have been captured by the testing and quarantine regime. Mr. Speaker, we know that we need to work together to protect Canadians from COVID in their communities across the country from coast to coast. We'll stop at nothing to be a partner to provinces and territories.
The honourable member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, if the federal government did its job, it wouldn't matter if there were positive cases on flights because travellers would have to undergo supervised quarantine on arrival. Cases of the variants have taken off in BC and have unfortunately now landed in Quebec. There's been community transmission because sick passengers didn't properly quarantine, because this government has failed to adequately supervise quarantines. Do they realize their incompetence has serious consequences for public health? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way. We have been there for Canadians regardless of which province they live in. We'll continue to do that, Mr. Speaker. We have some of the most rigid and stringent measures at the border, including a pre-departure test, a post-arrival test, a mandatory stay in a government-authorized quarantine hotel, a test on day 10, a 14-day quarantine. And Mr. Speaker, we will continue those measures because they are protecting Canadians. I would urge everyone to stay safe during this time.
The
honourable member for Burnaby South.
Thank you. I want to wish everybody a happy Earth Day. Today is also the day that the Liberal government announced their plan to fight the climate crisis. And spoiler alert, it's not a very good plan. In fact, it's one of the worst plans, if not the worst plan, amongst G7 nations in terms of reducing emissions, which isn't a big surprise because this Prime Minister bought a pipeline, continues to subsidize the fossil fuel sector, and continues to exempt the biggest polluters. When will this Prime Minister start fighting the climate crisis like he actually wants to win it?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We have an ambitious plan to address climate change, cut emissions, and grow the economy. I know the honourable member won't believe me, but perhaps he'll believe the former leader of the New Democratic Party, Thomas Mulcair, who called our plan absolutely marvellous, and it would put Canada on track to respect our Paris Accord obligations. He went on, Mr. Speaker, saying that our Prime Minister had, and I quote, published a very bold, all-encompassing, frankly brilliant climate plan. And Mr. Speaker, we agree.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
The Prime Minister announced a plan for climate change today, and it's not a good plan. It's the worst plan among G7 countries. And it's hardly surprising because this Prime Minister has a terrible record on the environment. He bought a pipeline. He continues to subsidize the oil patch, and he's exempting big polluters. When will the Prime Minister fight climate change like he really wants to win the battle? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We have a credible and tested climate plan that's delivering results. We've flattened the curve on pollution. We've made historic investments, more than $100 billion to build a cleaner, healthier economy with more good jobs for Canadians. That includes $17.6 billion for climate and environment in budget 2021, $15 billion through the Strengthened Climate Plan, $15 billion in dedicated transit funding, and $60 billion in the Pan-Canadian framework. We will continue to fight climate change, invest in a cleaner future, and create a stronger economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, member for Abbotsford.
We're in the middle of the worst health crisis of our lifetime. A massive third wave, lockdowns across the country, Canadians desperate to get their shots. Yet the Prime Minister's budget has no plan to speed up vaccinations, no support for overwhelmed hospitals, for Canadians who are sick and dying of COVID. What his budget does have is $100 billion for his re-election, but nothing to fight this pandemic. Why did the Prime Minister put his political interests ahead of the health of Canadians? Does he not realize that this pandemic is now his failure?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we knew that the third wave was coming, and that's why in March we said we would be sending the provinces $4 billion to support them in their fight against the third wave of the virus. In March, we knew how important it was to accelerate the vaccination campaign, and that's why we said the provinces would get $1 billion to do that. And in this budget, Mr. Speaker, we committed to extending business and income supports through to the end of September to help Canadians as we fight the third wave.
The honourable member for Abbotsford.
Well, she knew the third wave was coming, yet the Prime Minister's budget failed to deliver any money to vaccinate Canadians more quickly or to address skyrocketing health costs across the country. No support for provinces and healthcare workers who are overwhelmed. Instead, he told them he'll get around to it after the pandemic is over. As Canadians are suffering and dying, he found billions for his re-election, but not one nickel to provide Canadians with the health care they need. Does this Prime Minister not realize that this pandemic is now his failure?
Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, maybe the member opposite missed our announcement at the end of March, but we could see, epidemiologists could see the third wave was coming, and we knew provinces and territories needed support right away. That's why we announced then $4 billion to support the healthcare system, $1 billion to support vaccination campaigns. And in this budget, Mr. Speaker, we committed more than $12 billion in additional support to maintain our business and income support programs for Canadians through the end of September.
The honourable member for Abbotsford.
Well, there's no way of sugarcoating this. This budget also failed to deliver an economic growth plan. No plan to reopen the economy, create jobs, or a more competitive business environment. Here's what Robert Asselin, one of the Prime Minister's top policy advisors, had to say, quote, "The budget doubles down on programs that have yielded few results to date. It's hard to find a coherent growth plan," end quote. It's hard to find a coherent growth plan? Coming from one of his Liberal advisors? Why has the Prime Minister failed Canadians so badly?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, this is a budget targeted squarely at delivering jobs and increasing Canada's economic growth. This budget will create 500,000 work experience and job training opportunities. This budget will deliver on our throne speech commitment to create 1 million jobs by the end of this year. This budget is a budget that will help Canada come roaring back.
Honorable député de Chicoutimi.
The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, one newspaper couldn't have put it any more clearly this morning. The Indian variant is now in Canada, with the first case in Quebec in the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industries area. The Prime Minister has already been repeatedly faulted for his mismanagement of the health crisis, among other things for the many weeks it took him to temporarily close the border to China. Today he has another chance to get it right. Will he temporarily close the border to India? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've been saying today, and indeed all along, we will stop at nothing to protect the health of Canadians. We have some of the strongest measures in the world at our borders. Travelers are required to submit to a pre-departure test, a post-arrival test, spend 14 days in quarantine, several of those in a government-authorized quarantine facility while they await their negative test. And Mr. Speaker, we will not hesitate to add additional measures if the data and science indicates that we should do so.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, our leader and the member for Durham was quick to ask for temporary halts to flights from countries with serious outbreaks of COVID variants. The Quebec Premier has also officially asked the Prime Minister to do more at our borders. This is a long-standing request. It's too late now. Canada already has a case of the Indian variant. Conservatives want to do something about our borders. How many cases of the variants will it take before the Liberals do something? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think this is where I differ in opinion with the member opposite. It's never too late to do something about COVID-19. There is always measures that we can take together with provinces and territories, indeed with Canadians, to protect each other. COVID is something that requires a great deal of work collaboratively to control. It is a pandemic, a global pandemic. We will not stop to add additional measures at our borders when we need to do so. Thank you.
L'honorable député de Chicoutimi.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, like with the border, the Liberal government has done nothing to increase unconditional health transfers to the provinces in the middle of a pandemic and has done nothing to secure the vaccine supply for Canadians. It's clear the blame for the third wave falls at the Prime Minister's doorstep. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing and temporarily shut the border to countries with serious outbreaks? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've repeatedly said, we have some of the strongest measures in the world at our borders. In fact, we know that we have a very low number of travelers that arrive positive. And how do we know, Mr. Speaker? Because we demand a pre-departure test. We demand a post-arrival test. Travelers must spend time in a government-authorized hotel until they receive a negative test. They must continue their quarantine, Mr. Speaker, and submit to a day 10 test. We will continue to apply measures at the border, and we will not hesitate to do more if the science and evidence indicates we should do so.
Le député de Repentigny.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. The Bloc Québécois has rightly spoken about the fact that the budget abandons health and seniors. But there's a less obvious victim, climate change. In the budget, the federal government announced $17.6 billion for a green recovery. That's almost the same amount as the cost of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. So the full price tag, Mr. Speaker, if I understand correctly, the full price tag on Canada's green recovery is equal to one single dirty oil development. Is anyone supposed to take this seriously? The Honourable Minister.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to remind my honourable colleague that the leader of her party, when he was Quebec Environment Minister, short-circuited the environmental assessment process in Quebec, not once, not twice, but 3 times. He has the worst record in Quebec history. So if I was among the Bloc, I might be a bit embarrassed to ask that kind of question. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. If I was in government, I would be a bit ashamed because Canada keeps failing to meet its greenhouse gas emissions targets. On the one hand, they invest to fight climate change, but on the other hand, they massively invest in fossil fuels. It was the same thing under Stephen Harper. They pull out their magic wand to try to transform dirty oil into clean energy instead of transitioning to something else. Like Einstein, the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. How many times will the federal government keep doing the same thing before they admit it's not working? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to remind my honourable colleague that when our climate change plan was tabled in December 2020, Greenpeace described it as an ambitious plan. And that's precisely what the Special Envoy for Climate Change, John Kerry, said about the Canadian targets today. He said it was an ambitious target, and he was proud to work with Canada on climate change, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. I would point out that the member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie has become the Environment Minister, apparently. The Environment Commissioner published a report this morning that illustrates this phenomenon very well. Canada signed on to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and 6 years later, the Commission found that the government had not established an implementation plan. Same thing with the Paris Agreement. The Prime Minister signed it in 2015, but 6 years later, Canada is the only G7 country where emissions have gone up instead of going down. There is no solution that's consistent with fossil fuels. When will the government admit that? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada's plan is based on ambitious measures. As I said, we already have carbon pricing, one of the most ambitious plans in the world, more ambitious than Quebec, BC, or even California and Europe, who started almost a decade before implementing a price on carbon. We are investing in green energy twice as much as we are in fossil fuels, and that was before the last budget, which my colleague, the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister presented. So we have done more, we'll continue to do more, and we have ambitious targets, and we will participate in the U.S. Summit on climate change.
Mr. Speaker, a brave woman came forward to report sexual misconduct allegations against General Vance to ensure the defense minister had this critical information. She knew the situation was too serious to get wrong and that only the minister could make it right. But he did nothing. For 3 years, this minister will not assume responsibility. He denies any wrongdoing and refuses to accept that he has failed those in uniform. Will the defense minister honor his sworn obligation and admit he has been derelict in his ministerial duties?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we commend the brave women that have come forward. When this information was brought forward by the former ombudsman, Mr. Speaker, I immediately took it to the Privy Council office, and the Privy Council office immediately the next day followed up with the former ombudsman, Mr. Speaker. We have a lot more work to do, Mr. Speaker, and that's why in the budget 2021, we have outlined $236 million continuing to work to eliminate sexual misconduct and gender-based violence in the military to support our survivors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, 3 years ago, a female member of the Canadian Armed Forces complained to the National Defence Ombudsman about the inappropriate conduct of General Jonathan Vance. She wanted to make sure the minister did his job. General Vance reports directly to the Minister of National Defence. The solution is a political one, but the minister passed the buck to his Chief of Staff. Why has the Defence Minister turned his back on women in uniform by refusing to deal with this complaint? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that could be further from the truth. When this information was brought forward, I immediately contacted the Privy Council office, who's in charge of Governor and Council appointments, Mr. Speaker, to making sure that action was taken. And action was. The following day, they contacted the former ombudsman to take the information even further, Mr. Speaker. We know that we have a lot more work to do, Mr. Speaker. As outlined in our budget, we have $236 million to combat and eliminate sexual misconduct and gender-based violence in the military, Mr. Speaker. And also, I'm hoping that the member opposite and their party will support this endeavor. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
The minister has to stop misleading Canadians. Mr. Speaker, the military officer who came forward with sexual misconduct allegations against General Vance said this was a political appointment, so it's a political issue. She wanted the minister to see the evidence, so the defense minister's accountability could be reflected. The defense minister failed to protect our troops from sexual misconduct by refusing to accept the evidence. Will the defense minister apologize for failing to protect the integrity of Operation Honor by leaving General Vance in charge for an extra 3 years?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I stated, when information is brought forward, any information is brought forward, has always been immediately actioned. And that's exactly what we did. contact the Privy Council office, Mr. Speaker, to that action was taken. And Mr. Speaker, since the member opposite is bringing this up, maybe he can also explain when he was a parliamentary secretary, and also ask the leader of their own party of the actions they took when information was brought forward prior to the appointment of General Vance at that time, and why wasn't action taken at that time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. Today, the Liberals are presenting new greenhouse gas reduction targets. That's all very well and good, but there is no credible plan to achieve them. They're incapable of making the energy transition. They're addicted to oil. In a report, we learned that in 2020 alone, the Liberals gave $18 billion to oil and gas companies, and so it's no wonder that since they've been in power, we've been going backwards in meeting our targets every year. How can we believe the Liberals' new targets when they can't even reach Conservative targets? The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, we've flattened the curve on pollution, and we know there's more work to do. That being said, Mr. Speaker, the report the honourable member citing, the authors of that report aren't being entirely forthright in their assessment of subsidies. They include many things the vast majority of Canadians would agree are not fossil fuel subsidies, such as supporting workers, cleaning up orphan wells and methane cleanup. These were supported by the NDP and Greens at the time. Are they now opposed to it? Mr. Speaker, we fully agree Canada needs to eliminate real fossil fuel subsidies, but mixing several issues in this report does not contribute to an intelligent discussion of this important subject. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, COVID infections are raging across Canada, and hospitals in many provinces are overwhelmed. Canadians need to be vaccinated as quickly as possible in order to help address this crisis. But the head of the Public Health Agency just told the Health Committee that Canada's vaccine rollout is only operating at half capacity. This is due to a lack of supply of doses. Will the Liberals stop spinning and blaming others, take responsibility for their failure to secure enough vaccines, and tell Canadians when we will be able to vaccinate at full capacity?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've been extremely clear and transparent with Canadians about the expected vaccine rollout, about the doses arriving in our country, and indeed any delays in those doses. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, good news, we're ahead of where we projected to be. In fact, we expected by the end of Q1 to have 6 million doses. We received nearly 10. Mr. Speaker, we'll be receiving 48 million doses in this quarter, enough to vaccinate every person with one dose for those people that wish vaccination. Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to work with provinces and territories to get the job done.
The honourable member for Brampton West.
Mr. Speaker, as a proud member of Parliament for one of the youngest ridings in the country, I know how much investments in our children and youth matter. Canada Child Benefit alone helped over 37,000 children in my riding of Brampton West. This week, Canada's first female Minister of Finance announced a historic budget that includes investments in early learning and childcare programs that will provide more young Canadians the education and care they need while giving parents peace of mind. Can the Minister please tell us how this historic investment into Canada's future will help even more families, children, and particularly women in Brampton West and across Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for Brampton West for her question and recognize her service as a nurse on the front lines of the pandemic. Our government recognizes the extraordinary and disproportionate toll this pandemic has taken on women, particularly racialized women and those with young children. That's why this budget commits up to $30 billion over 5 years, reaching $9.2 billion on a permanent basis to build a high-quality, affordable, and accessible early learning and childcare system across Canada.
Honourable member for Foothills.
We know the Liberals overpaid for the AstraZeneca vaccine. In fact, substantially overpaid. $8 a dose compared to $4 in the United States, $3 in the UK. When I pay a premium, I expect premium results. But in fact, Canadians are paying far more for far less. And now the AstraZeneca vaccine is being delayed. With results like that, it's no surprise that the Minister of Procurement wants to keep the vaccine contracts that she negotiated secret. When will she comply with the House motion and table those vaccine contracts so Canadians can see why we're paying way more for way less?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for the question. Our government is working tirelessly to bring vaccines into this country. That's why, Mr. Speaker, that we are in the top 3 of vaccine administration in the G20. That's why, Mr. Speaker, that we have 11 million doses administered and 13.7 million doses distributed. We will work to comply with the parliamentary process while keeping Canada's vaccine supply safe as we want to for the health and benefit of all Canadians. Thank you.
Honourable member for South Surrey, White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With rising cases...
I'm just going to interrupt the honourable member. The arm, there we go. Perfect.
My apologies, starting again. Mr. Speaker, with rising cases, BC handed down tougher restrictions this week, restrictions that will keep families apart and cause businesses to close for good. BC's Health Minister Adrian Dix called the Liberals' delivery of vaccines, quote, unpredictable, end quote. And Dr. Bonnie Henry said there's no, quote, line of sight on additional doses, end quote. We've had more than 14 months to figure this out. More than a quarter of Americans are fully vaccinated. That number in Canada, 2.5%. Where is this Liberal government's urgency?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to emphasize that our supply chains for vaccines are ramping up considerably. Let's just take a look at the facts. Key fact, we exceeded our targets in Q1 by 3.5 million. Key fact, we're receiving between 48 and 50 million doses in Q2. Key fact, we will have 110 million doses here before the end of September. Mr. Speaker, we're providing transparency to the provinces and territories with our supply chains. We'll keep bringing in vaccines for all Canadians. Thank you.
The honourable member for Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, through the pandemic, immune-compromised individuals have had to live in fear and isolation. My son Garrett was one of these individuals. Immune-compromised persons need vaccines that the Prime Minister hasn't delivered. Only 2% of Canadians are fully vaccinated. Experts are sounding alarms about the 4-month off-label dosing interval, potentially compromising health outcomes. Canadians shouldn't live in fear, and the failure to get vaccine lies directly with the Prime Minister. Will the Minister apologize for this failure?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, we've been there for provinces and territories to ensure that they have the vaccines they need to prioritize their populations in orders that they believe is the best and safest for Canadians. Let me be clear, vaccination serves 2 purposes. 1, to protect those most at risk from a severe outcome from COVID-19, including death, and 2, to help control the spread. We have worked with provinces and territories to make sure they have the guidance they need. They then design their vaccine strategies as appropriate to their particular population.
The honourable member for Kootenay, Columbia.
Mr. Speaker, I just met with the Fernie Chamber of Commerce. They are planning an economic recovery. They need the economic recovery plan for this summer tourism and hospitality sector, yet there's still no plan. Tourism and hospitality needs to plan for the summer now. Mr. Speaker, now we are in a 3rd wave due to the Prime Minister's inability to provide vaccines in January and February. Another blow to the struggling tourism and hospitality industry. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister admit his failure?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like, obviously, to send all my thoughts with the people of the tourism sector that have been going through a very difficult year, and we know that. So that's exactly why we've been there for them since the beginning of the pandemic. And my colleague knows that. That's the case in BC, that's the case in his riding, that's the case across the country. And to make sure that they would be able to go through the pandemic, the Minister of Finance in her budget announced that we would be continuing the wage subsidy until the end of September, as well as the rent relief program. Of course, we also announced $1 billion to support the tourism sector. This is a historic investment. We will be by their side as, of course, we're restarting.
L'honorable député.
The member for Avignon, La Métis, Matane, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, it's hard to follow the government on greenhouse gas reductions. On Sunday, its reduction target was 30% by 2030 from 2005 levels. On Monday, that became 36%. Today, it's 40%, but maybe 45% if everything goes well. So that's a lot of change in 1 week, but it's all talk unless it's enshrined in law. The government has introduced Bill C-12 on climate accountability. I'll let them pick their targets, but will they amend C-12 to make the targets law? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for her question. In fact, what she is describing, there's one word for that. It's called ambition. You need ambition when it comes to climate change. You need it in Canada, in the States, and around the world. And that's why Prime Minister Trudeau was happy to join with his counterparts from across the planet at this conference to show ambition on climate change. To answer the member's question, yes, indeed, in Bill C-12, we will include Canada's greenhouse gas emission target reductions. Next question. I saw people trying to catch my eye. I would like to remind members that if you're going to refer to another member, you have to do so by the name of their riding. I know that once in a while we forget. The honourable member again. Mr. Speaker, I applaud good intentions and ambition, but if they're not enshrined in law, they have no impact. It's nice that today's good intentions are better than yesterday's, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Currently, Ottawa has no legal obligation to meet either this new target or the old one by 2030. There's no independent accountability mechanism and no intermediate milestone within 10 years to judge whether the targets are on track to be met. Will the government have the courage to amend Bill C-12 to make its new target law? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for her question. In fact, I'd like to tell her that, in fact, there is an annual inventory presented by the government by these targets, which is presented to the UN. The Environment Commissioner and the Auditor General also conduct regular audits on what the government is doing on climate change. When it comes to C-12, we are calling on a group of experts to join with us. We are one of the rare countries in the world to have a bill like C-12, and we are imploring this chamber to move forward and adopt that bill quickly because it is important. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Regina Louvan.
Mr. Speaker, Regina's drive-through COVID-19 vaccine clinic was shut down this past weekend. The province announced that unless there is a sudden increase in vaccine supplies, it may remain closed until May 2nd. The Liberal government has set the people of Saskatchewan on a collision course. Because of their incompetence, the people of Regina are left with no option for 2 weeks. Mr. Speaker, why is it that any American can walk into a pharmacy in the USA and get vaccinated, while Canadians continue to wait? From the very beginning, this government has been a day late and a dollar short. When will vaccinations for the people of Regina be delivered?
Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives' historical account omits some very key facts. First of all, the entire production base for vaccines was ramping up in January and February. The United States production line is much different from Canada's. We in Canada actually exceeded our targets in the first quarter by 3.5 million vaccines. We are in the top 3 for administering vaccines in the G20. And indeed, I'd like to suggest that it takes a multi-pronged approach to combat the virus. Vaccines and public health measures as well must go hand in hand. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Barrie Springwater, Oro-Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, 2 days ago, the Chief Medical Officer of Health for Simcoe Muskoka stated, vaccination is a challenge at this time. We've had Moderna being delayed and reduced in half, and now the AstraZeneca postponement. He went on to say, we look forward to the day we get much bigger volumes, but we don't know when that will be. Vaccinations save lives, but only 2% of Canadians are fully vaccinated. A year into this pandemic, why does our Chief Medical Officer of Health have to guess about vaccine supply? And why didn't the Prime Minister get us vaccines in January when we could have prevented the third wave?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make some numbers clear for the opposition. First of all, we've distributed 13.7 million doses to the provinces. Second of all, 11 million doses have been administered. And third of all, in terms of supply, we've got Pfizer delivering 2 million doses a week through May and 2.5 million a week through the month of June, over 5 weeks. That's going to lead us to the large part of between 48 to 50 million doses by the end of June. That's transparency. We're saying it now, and we will continue to bring vaccines into Canada for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
Dr. Gardner also said controlling COVID is limited by lack of vaccine supply. He said with delays of Moderna and the postponement of AstraZeneca vaccines, only half the local capacity to vaccinate is being employed. Gardner's not just talking about a third wave. He's concerned that there may be a fourth wave without adequate immunization. Public health officials should not be left guessing about vaccine supply a year into the pandemic. Now, the Deputy Prime Minister admitted earlier that she knew that the third wave was coming. So why didn't the Prime Minister get us vaccines in January and February to stop this devastating third wave?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've said it already in this question period, but I'll say it again. The entire world was ramping up in terms of achieving a vaccine supply through January and February, despite the global supply chain challenges faced by the entire world. Canada was able to secure 3.5 million more doses than originally targeted. In addition to that, we've accelerated 22 million doses into earlier quarters. That's going to mean that all Canadians who want access to a vaccine can be fully vaccinated prior to the end of September, if not sooner, Mr. Speaker. We will continue bringing vaccines in for all Canadians, and we'll provide transparency directly to the provinces and territories.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Lac Saint Louis. Climate change is an urgent issue for Canadians and for my constituents in Lac Saint Louis. We know we need to do more. And I was pleased to see the Prime Minister announce to Canadians and to the nations of the world that announce our new climate goal today. Can the Minister of Foreign Affairs provide an update on this important development and the steps we are taking to address climate change? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Lac Saint Louis for his important question and his commitment to protecting the environment. Climate change is real, and Canadians deserve a credible plan to address it. Today, our government has committed to increase its target to reduce emissions to 40 to 45% below 2005 levels by 2030. This commitment builds on historic investments. We've been clear that this is an important issue to us, and we are going to make these investments also to build a stronger economy.
For Port Moody Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, Corey is a Port Moody business owner with 30 employees, all under age 30. But with severe lockdowns, it's been too hard to operate, so he's moving his business to the U.S. Sadly, many businesses are devastated by roller coaster lockdowns. But because of the Liberals' vaccine failure, provinces have to impose tougher restrictions for a prolonged time. The economy suffers, and businesses have to shut down or move. Now we face a third wave lockdown. Why didn't the Prime Minister secure enough vaccines in January and February to prevent this third wave?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for the question. And as I have reiterated in this House, the global supply chains for vaccines were ramping up in January and February. That's a historical fact, Mr. Speaker. But another fact is that despite this global supply chain difficulty, Canada has been extremely aggressive in procuring more than 3.5 million doses than originally planned in the first quarter. We're going to be at 48 to 50 million at the end of June and 110 million prior to the end of September. We've got millions of doses running into this country from multiple suppliers. J&J next week.
The honourable member for Stormont Dundas, South Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, millions of Canadians are at risk of being cut off their benefits this July because they haven't been able to get their taxes done by going out. They're not able to do their own taxes at home and they rely on tax preparers. We're talking about seniors, parents, those with disabilities, and on a fixed income. We need compassion during these challenging times. Let me ask a question this way to the minister responsible. If the government can take 2 years to prepare a budget, why can't Canadians get an extra 2 months to file their taxes when they're being told they must stay at home?
The Honourable Minister.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Notre gouvernement...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government understands that tax time is stressful at the best of times. We're going to continue to be there for them at every stage of the process. In February, we said that persons receiving emergency benefits will receive tax credits. And the government has also made it easier for taxpayers, and they will not have to pay penalties on interest if they cannot make those payments for reasons outside of their control. The government is always going to be there for Canadians who need their government during tax time. The honourable member. Mr. Speaker, action, action and more action. That's what our Francophone communities want, and they're asking for it loud and clear. The federal government has the power and the duty to act. Our leader has been clear. A Conservative government would participate and increase the funding of Francophone post-secondary education in minority communities. But the minister is looking for excuses instead of acting. When are we going to see immediate, concrete action to support our universities, our schools, and our communities, our Francophone institutions? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I always love answering my colleagues' questions, and I wonder whether he actually even read the budget, because in the budget, there are $120 million to support post-secondary education in this country. I'll be happy to work with him to explain exactly how that money will be spent. Communities can, of course, always count on us. We will be there to support Francophones across the country because we know that post-secondary education is important, be it in Alberta, Ontario, or elsewhere. Thank you. I would like to remind the members, sometimes we forget that his microphone is on mute after he asks a question or even when others are speaking. Thank you.
West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, sea to sky country.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is being hit by the third wave of COVID, and we know that Canadians need support now as much as ever. Programs like the wage subsidy, rent subsidy, and emergency business account have been a lifeline to Canadian workers, families, and businesses, but they fear that these will sunset by the summer. Can the Minister of Finance please update Canadians on the support extensions or expansions announced this week in Budget 2021?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank the member for his question and for his hard work for his community. We know that Canadian businesses need our support as we all fight this third wave of the virus. That's why this budget extends the wage subsidy, the rent subsidy, and lockdown support for businesses and other employers until September 25th and extends the CEBA loan application window until June 30th. We will do whatever it takes to support Canadian businesses as we all fight COVID together.
The Honourable Member for Churchill, Kiwatnuk-Aski.
Mr. Speaker, York Landing is now in the 5th week of chronic water outages during a pandemic. Their First Nation has been forced to declare a state of emergency because their, quote, state-of-the-art water treatment plant is not working. The band is now paying out of pocket for proper testing and bottled water. The Liberals will say they're monitoring the situation, but Band-Aids won't cut it. This government's lack of sustained funding is the problem. What is this federal government going to do right now to fix the water treatment plant in York Landing?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as the member may well note from the fall economic statement, as well as the current budget that came out on Monday, there are sustained investments for water across the country in Indigenous communities, as well as York Landing, and we will continue those. No nation should go without secure and safe access to clean water, and we will continue working on it. When we took power, there were 5 long-term water advisories in effect. We've lifted 106. That work will continue, and we will continue to sustain those critical assets throughout the life of the asset span. Thank you.
The honourable member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
Mr. Speaker, the Health Minister has previously questioned my concern for science, and today I return the favour. At least 75 recent studies have shown that optimal vitamin D levels significantly reduce susceptibility to COVID-19 and significantly improve health outcomes if people do get infected. It has been documented for decades that Canadians have suboptimal vitamin D levels, especially during winter. Can the Minister explain why Health Canada's website states that most Canadians are getting enough vitamin D and doesn't actively recommend supplementing?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would encourage the member opposite to not fall prey to the myriad of fake news articles that are circulating around the internet about ways that people can protect themselves from COVID, and trust that the Public Health Agency of Canada only puts science-based credible documents up, guided, of course, by our Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Tam, and the many scientists that work for us. Mr. Speaker, what Canadians need now is trust, and they need to be able to trust in the information that their elected officials are sharing, and I would urge the member to get his sources from credible sites. Thank you.
And that's all the time we have today for question period, c'est tout bientôt. We have a point of order. I've got a list of 3, so I'll get to the honourable member for Edmonton West. I've got the other 2 first, if that's okay. L'honorable député de Avignon-Lamétis.
The honourable member for Avignon-Métis-Matapédia. There has been consultation among the parties, and I think if you seek it, you'll find there's unanimous consent for the following motion: that this House ask the government to immediately suspend passenger flights that are non-essential from countries where there is a high rate of COVID-19 variants, including India and Brazil, similar to what it did when suspending flights from the United Kingdom on December 20th, 2020. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. Agreed. The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. Carried.
For Edmonton West has a point of order.
Yes, arising from question period. During the question period, the member from Raponce referred to Alberta oil as dirty oil. With the House's permission, I'd like to table a report from the Canadian Energy Centre showing that Alberta oil actually has lower flaring, lower venting, and is cleaner oil than the oil that is actually imported in to Quebec from the States and Algeria, and suggests that perhaps the member get aboard and help bring in cleaner Alberta oil to help the environment, as opposed to dirty oil they're currently importing.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. Well, I'm afraid we don't have unanimous consent. And the honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
It's not a point of order. Sir Chair, mine is the Thursday question. So are we ready for that?
Yes. The Honourable Government or Parliamentary Secretary. Oh, I'm sorry. One moment.
Do I get?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just assumed what it was. Please go ahead and ask your question.
No problem. And thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition, I would like to hear from the House Leader of the government what our plans are for the remainder of this week and next week. Thank you.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague for this very important question. Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, this afternoon, we will continue the debate on the budget presented last Monday by the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Tomorrow we will debate C-21, the Act to amend the Firearms Act at second reading. Monday, when we come back, it will be the fourth and final day of debate on the budget. On Tuesday, we will resume debate at second reading of Bill C-12, the